Welcome back to the Oshner Andrews Sports Medicine Podcast Studio. Make sure you go to them if you have any healthcare needs. They got the Andrews Institute down there. Dr. James Andrews, one of the best surgeons in the world. And obviously they have an Oshner for everything, whether you want to work out or do whatever you want to do. So make sure you go check them out at one of their many locations today. Our guy E's actually at one right now, had a baby. You aren't going to see Brandon on the show because Brandon's sitting in for E behind the switchboard over there running the show. Shout out to E and his family. Blessings up to them and you know, everything they're going through. Congratulations to them. Happy to welcome a new little guy to the NOF family. So shout out to E and his wife Shauna. So yeah, no B on the show. This is another episode of NewOrleans.Football presented by PJ's Coffee, and we are coming to you from our studio right next door to my guy Matt Bowers. You need a new car, make sure you check him out. You know where he's at. Locations all over. If it doesn't say Bowers, you're at the wrong place. We got a great show for you guys today. We're going to keep talking about Spencer Rattler on this episode of SpencerRattler.Football. Everything you need to know about that. The week's over. He's done all the preparation. Is he ready to lead the team? What's it going to look like? What are realistic expectations? We're going to break all that down and so much more right after this very, very quick word from our sponsors. Oshner Hospital for Orthopedics and Sports Medicine on Clearview Parkway is celebrating 5 years of exceptional achievements. The hospital's integrated team has successfully performed over 20,000 surgeries using the latest in cutting-edge technology. With nationally recognized services and impactful partnerships, they continue to lead the advancement of orthopedic and sports medicine care in our region.
Rouse's Markets is voted best grocery store in New Orleans, best grocery store in Baton Rouge, Mississippi, Gulf Coast, Thibodaux, Houma, Hammond, Lake Charles, Mobile, year after year. Thank you for choosing us best grocery store on the Gulf Coast. Number one. Thank you.
Thank you.
The number one grocery store
In Mississippi, Alabama,
Louisiana. 1 million customers a week can't be wrong. Welcome to Rouse's.
The NewOrleans.Football show is proudly presented by PJ's Coffee. PJ's Coffee has some of the best drinks that you can find. They have locations all over the city. They have pastries and everything else you need to get your day started. So go check them out. NewOrleans.Football is proudly sponsored by Urban South Brewery, the makers of Paradise Park Lager. I love supporting local breweries, and when looking for a refreshing, easy drinking beer, I always recommend Paradise Park. In fact, I think it might be the best game day beer out there. If you want something a little lighter, try Paradise Light. It's everything I love about Paradise Park with just 96 calories and 2.6 carbs. And if you're looking for a family-friendly place to watch the game, I'd recommend Urban South's Tap Room in the Lower Garden District. They've got 15 TVs, 30 unique beers on tap, and mouth-watering urban smash burgers. The whole family will want to make Urban South their new living room, because at Urban South, they take laid back seriously. Looking for the best insurance coverage at the lowest price? Look no further than Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency. They are a local independent insurance agency right here in New Orleans, specializing in home, flood, and auto insurance. Their agents are born and raised in the area and understand our community's unique needs and the homeowners insurance crisis our residents are currently in. At Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, their dedicated team will shop every available carrier in the market, ensuring you get the most comprehensive coverage at the lowest possible price. They know your time is valuable, which is why they work diligently to provide you with the quotes as soon as possible. Why settle for less when you can have the best? Trust Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, to protect what matters most to you. I do. I've been a client of theirs since 2021. When we couldn't find someone to insure our house because of the big oak tree growing over top, Chabert worked until they found someone that would work with us and give us the protection that we need to feel safe in our new home. Call them today at 504-326-6526 or visit them online at Protected by Chabert. That's 504-326-6526. Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, your local insurance experts. Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey is an 86 proof blend of aged wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries. Blended in New Orleans, it is not for the thin-skinned. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants. NewOrleans.Football is proud to be sponsored by Firehouse Subs. Make sure you check out their location on Veterans Boulevard. Attention Saints fans, don't let pests and termites invade your home field. Trust the team at Red Pest Solutions to tackle those unwelcome visitors. Call the Red Man today for unbeatable pest and termite control. Score peace with no pest. Visit redpest.com, REDDPEST.com. All right, let's get into the show. Welcome back to the Oshner Andrews Sports Medicine Institute podcast studio up here on Vets. We got a great show for you guys today. NewOrleans.Football presented by PJ's Coffee. Mike,
you stole my Spencer Rattler joke.
I did. Actually, our guy David had it in our group me for the all 22 members who
good job, David.
Get a little more info and insight than everybody else. Our premier tier on the website. He dropped it in there. He said a little bit different. He said NewOrleans.Rattler. So I mean,
it's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. But I think Rattler.Football. I mean, that's got a little more pop to it.
Look, all the other things going on with Spencer Rattler, the Rattler name and potential like logos and words you can do off that, and already like that we've been using in subheads or whatever. I mean, that just adds 10% to the entry.
B, do we got a picture of his tattoo somewhere? The logo on his arm, with the S and the R and the snake on it.
The logo.
I don't know. If we got one somewhere.
He uses that logo multiple places.
If we have it, like figure out how
to hat,
get it on the screen at some point. Like that tattoo is the most fire tattoo I ever seen. But the very first segment we got here is presented by Urban South, and let's just start big picture, broad, and we'll narrow it down as we go through this conversation. What do we honestly expect to see from Spencer Rattler this week?
In our 6th Rattler podcast of the week, I've counted. It is our 6th Rattler podcast so far this week.
Yeah, I mean, I keep driving home from work and just deciding to talk about it.
Have you done one since we were in the studio? Because I was finishing my story.
No.
Hold on, let me check NewOrleans.Football.
No, but we got a bunch of pods on the site. If you aren't signed up for the site, there were 3 extra podcasts this week. If you're a member of NewOrleans.Football, make sure you go there, do that. People watching this now are already members. I'm gonna put a code. We'll throw the Rattler code out there. 20% off your first payment. Sign up. You'll get all of our coverage after the game. You can read everything we already did this week. That takes it down to $720 for the month. Try it out. If you don't like it, just leave. But we're gonna do our best to keep you in there. So sign up. Use the code Rattler and sign up today.
Can the rattlesnake emoji work as the code too? Rattler or
that would be sick.
The snake
that
emoji?
Would be sick.
What do we honestly expect? Look, I not to repeat what I said on the dot earlier, but I want to really have like a lot of confidence in him. I think he has a lot of confidence in himself. I don't think the moment's going to be too big for him. He was starting as a freshman at Oklahoma. I talked to his throwing coach the other day, who pointed out he started over 40 games in college in the SEC and the Big 12 and at Oklahoma and at South Carolina. And he always had the spotlight on him. He always had the Heisman spotlight on him. He had Big 12 championships, and he played Clemson and beat Clemson. I mean, that is college, and this is the pros. But he's not unfamiliar with being thrown into stressful situations. He's been highly confident since he was in middle school, and he's talented. He's super talented, and we saw it in some preseason games. So none of that worries me. What worries me is I wouldn't expect a good game from Derek Carr this week if he was healthy. Their offensive line is in shambles right now. We've seen 2 teams now take away the run and pressure them and blitz the hell out of them in Philadelphia and Kansas City, and now Tampa Bay's another team that likes to blitz a lot. So it's just going to be really hard for any quarterback to succeed. So I like his chances. My favorite thing that I saw out of him in all of training camp, mini camp, OTAs, anything, was how well he looked when he moved out of the pocket and reset, like sometimes throwing on the run, sometimes getting outside of the pocket, still looking for that throw on the second or third level. I think he can escape pressure with poise and then still make a play, and I'm not just talking about scrambling. He can do that too. We obviously saw that in the preseason. So I like his ability to handle all that, but I just don't know. I don't know if Clint Kubiak's got enough magic left if the Buccaneers are able to stop the run and he's facing 2nd and 8s and 3rd and 8s all day. That's my biggest fear. Yeah,
I agree with that. I mean, look, the stuff on the move is part of kind of what makes him special, the movement ability. That's why he gave him really good looks is doing Mahomes in practice last week, and that was part of it. The other thing I like about that movement ability too, though, is like he runs the way that we always thought Taysom Hill should have been able to run from quarterback. Okay, 1 read, 2 read, nothing there, off you go, and he's able to kind of make something happen. And I feel like that's going to have to be part of his game this week. And it was something that Jaden Daniels did well against them week 1. Bo Nix ran for a decent amount against them when they played. I think he even rushed for a touchdown. So, I mean, that's something that they'll give up a little bit. And if that blitz comes, there might be opportunities if there are creases to kind of get out and do it. But I think you said it. I mean, it's not an ideal circumstance for any quarterback in the whole entire NFL, let alone a guy making his first start. That's hard to overcome. The whole entire interior offensive line might not be playing if Lucas Patrick can't play. And if Lucas Patrick does play, he's going to be injured. I mean, that is not a good spot to be in as a guy making your first start. So, to go to the topic, realistic expectations, it's tough. I mean, I think it's a really hard circumstance for anybody to overcome.
I will say, though, if you want to have some hope, so Tampa Bay blitzes a lot, third most in the NFL, and guess who's second? Denver, who they're playing four days later. So Tampa Bay has blitzed the third most in the NFL this year, and like you said, they faced Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix, blitz those guys. However, Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels both completed 70% of their passes.
They played well.
Neither one turned the ball over at all. Nix was not sacked, and Daniels was only sacked twice. He had 3 fumbles in the game with 0 lost, but no interceptions for either guy. So
2 sacks between the two of them, too, I believe.
Total. Yeah, Daniels sacked twice, Nix sacked 0 times. No turnovers. So, I mean, 70% completions. So it's not like rookies can't find their way against this defense. Yeah. And, oh, by the way, the last time we saw Tampa Bay's defense, they gave up 550 passing yards to Kirk Cousins. So they're not this big bad monster. It's not the same as the Chiefs' defense.
Yeah, to me, it's not really. I'm less worried about Spencer, and I'll tell you why. Like I think this offense is designed to do a lot of things to make it easier on the quarterback. You aren't out there having to do the full field read or anything like that. Like it's pure progressions. We've talked about it a lot. That's left to right, reading it, right to left, reading it. You don't really have to read the coverage. Like it's designed so that you don't have to get confused by anything. Depending on who you're talking to, that's either the greatest thing in the world or it's less efficient. The other way of doing it is you go out, you read the coverage, and you have a concept on the right and a concept to the left. And if it's one type of coverage, you're going to go to the right and you're going to do a half field read. If it's a different type of coverage, you're going to the left and you're doing a half field read, so that you're always in the most ideal thing to get the ball out. That's how Drew read the field. That's how Peyton Manning read it. That's how Brady read it. But you've seen a lot of people coming into this offense, and they're able to operate it really well. Brock Purdy is a young guy, comes in the league, runs it really well.
C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, C.J. Stroud runs it really well. That's just Tua. It plays the best he's ever played because it takes a lot of that off the quarterback, and every play is designed to work against every coverage. So theoretically, the ability for confusion is lesser. Like if you're reading it like Peyton Manning and you're trying to say, okay, they got quarters, so I'm going to go to the right, but then they dropped a safety down and it's actually cover 3 and you should have went to the left. Like it's harder to kind of create some of that confusion to where you're making the wrong decision on where to go with the ball. So that's one advantage here. And it just takes a lot off. Like you go out, you execute, you make your reads. Is he open? Is he not? You throw the ball. And I think the Spencer part of it, I think I'm less worried about that. I'm more worried about it because of the structure. Like your offensive line's hurt. Alvin Kamara is playing through a fractured hand. Rashid Shaheed missed practice this week with the hip. He'll probably be fine by Sunday, but you lost a day of getting chemistry with him. Like as a guy that's making your first start, Wednesday you had a walkthrough because you're playing Monday night. So you lose a day of practice of getting your timing and rhythm down with everybody. So you only got 2 days with Chris Olave this week. Like one thing they did do well, and it's kind of in hindsight, it's interesting that they did it, is they left Olave out there for like the first or second rep almost every single day with the second team offense. And both Rattler and Haener got the opportunity to throw the ball to him a lot. I went through it a couple days ago, and I think Rattler threw 9 passes to him in camp, 8 or 9 passes to him in camp. So like there's a little bit there, and then 7-on-7 even more in team 9 passes. But that's kind of interesting in hindsight that they did that. It was almost as if it was like disaster planning a little bit. That okay, one day they might have to throw to this guy. But it also might have just been for the evaluation. Like
I think it was for the evaluation because the thing I thought was hilarious in camp was how like it looked like, oh, they're letting the varsity kid play with the JV team. I'm guessing that targets to Chris Olave with the second team were something like 15 targets, 15 completions. Like it just felt like it was a free pass. It's like, oh, good, we're giving them a chance to complete a pass for.
The other thing here. I'm gonna read a stat here. Let me pull it up real quick. It's in one of my stories today from Next Gen Stats. Like the biggest thing here is style of game. If they can play their style of game on Sunday, there's a chance to to win. But if they can't play their style of game, I think it's cooked. Like straight up, right out of it, like you have no chance. Like if you're able to play under center, that means that you're doing everything that you need to do to support the quarterback in the system and give him a chance to win. Your offensive line doesn't have to block as long. If you start having to go to like these long dropbacks or play out of shotgun, you got to block longer. Now you're putting, pressure on Nick Saldivari to make a play so Spencer Rattler can make a play. And if you're living in that type of world on first and second down, you're in a really bad place. But since the first 2 weeks of the season, the Saints had a pre-snap win probability of 50% or higher on 90.5% of Derek Carr's dropbacks from weeks 1 and 2, the highest rate in the NFL. Since week 3, the Saints had a win probability of 50% or higher on just 26.6% of Carr's dropbacks, the 6th lowest rate in the NFL. With a positive game script, the Saints were able to lead the NFL in play-action dropback rate at 46.5% and percentage of plays with the quarterback under center, 53.5% in weeks 1 and 2. But both of those rates have been more than cut in half over the past 3 weeks. So they just haven't been able to play their style of game. Yep. Play action isn't working. You're having to go to shotgun. Those are things they don't want to do when you go to shotgun and you aren't playing under center and you aren't being able to use all the play action. Trevor Penning has to block in more true situations. Fuaga has to block in more true situations. And if you're putting pressure on that offensive line, you're kind of screwed in this game. So if they can play their style of play, they have a chance to win.
Got to be able to run the ball. I mean, those stats tell a lot. The short version is if they can't run the ball. Philadelphia took away the run, it put them in a real bind. Kansas City took away the run, it put them in a real bind. And I won't even say took away. I mean, you got to be able to do it. Teams can't just take away your run. Everybody tries to take away your run. You got to win with your running game, and this is a matchup where that's possible. Tampa Bay has good defensive tackles. Vita Vea is a good one. Obviously, Kalijah Kancey's going to be back from injury in this game. But I don't think it's Jalen Carter or Chris Jones. And you gotta establish more run than they did in those games, or I don't think he's going to be able to overcome that.
Yeah, and I think the whole thing for him is just you mentioned the blitz, like it's just being able to recognize it on third down. If you can do that, like you have a chance. You give yourself a chance. If you don't recognize it, things are going to start getting ugly kind of quick. You can't count on your offensive line to do you any favors. It's just a really tough situation to be in with where they're kind of set up. Realistic expectation, is it 250 yards? We
did a over under at 235, and I thought it was a perfect number. Derek Carr only hit 239 and 243 twice this year, and his 2 highest. Now, when they didn't need to throw that much when they were winning, and in some of the games he didn't have a prayer of. But 235 is like a good number. He might be playing from behind. But I'm not expecting a 300-yard passing game. I'm not expecting a 150-yard passing game. Something like that feels right. I think they can get a couple touchdown drives and a couple field goal drives in this. I think there'll be a turnover. I mean, I don't think we're gonna get the final answer in week 1. I think it's gonna be everything in the middle. Like, what did we just say? The Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels numbers I read. It was really impressive. I thought that those guys completed 70% of those passes with no turnovers, but they also had 0 touchdown passes. One of them threw for 216, one of them threw for 184. That's pretty realistic.
It's interesting to me. I spent the week reaching out to every person that I have any type of relationship with, trying to find out what they thought, what they saw, what they feel about it. In almost every single one, it was like, we're going to find out. We're going to find out. I think a lot of people like stuff they saw in practice this week. I think a lot of people, they're impressed with the arm, some of the stuff he was doing. There's probably a couple mistakes in practice. You're going to have that. But every single person was kind of like, we're going to find out. We're going to see. Like, I think it's just so hard to gauge it given the circumstances that he's walking into. It isn't like if Spencer had to play in week 2 of the season, like after seeing week 1 and being like, oh, they know how to block, and you have all the guys out there and everybody's healthy.
If Spencer was playing in week 3,
my confidence
after the Panthers and Dallas
my
game,
confidence level,
I think he's going to do great.
My confidence level would be so much different. Like any apprehension I have is it wouldn't, if Derek was playing this week, I think I'd be having the same conversation right now. Every single point I made would be the same exact one right now, because
completely agree.
It's almost like not about, it's so hard to even get to the quarterback when there's all these other issues. I don't really know where to put it.
If Spencer was starting in week 3, we'd be predicting he's got time to win Rookie of the Year. That's how good this offense looked. That was this season.
That was this season.
Whew.
What a different time. What a different time. All right. Let's just set a quick baseline here. Is 170-0-0, is that a win?
No.
I feel like for him.
If it's a competitive game the whole way, yeah, that's 170-0-0.
I think that's what Bo Nix did against him, right? 170-0-0.
Bo Nix was 216-0-0 with a touchdown run.
Was Jaden 170?
Jaden was 184.
Yeah.
0-0 with 2 touchdown runs though.
Yeah.
So they both did that and completed 70% of their passes. So that's right on the verge. 170 is a little low for a win, but no turnovers.
No, I mean for him. Is that a good day for him?
If they're running the ball, sure, get out of the way.
Yep.
If they're running the ball, get out of the way. Yeah. Here's a question. We disagreed on the throw it deep strategy of last week. The when all else fails, at least try to hit a home run. Because I hate when you do that on 2nd and 8. Now it's 3rd and 8, and you're under duress. The ultimate worst thing we ever saw was the Jameis against the Buccaneers game, where he just was chucking deep before they went to London that one year, and it just was not working. Where do you think Rattler is on that? If once again 2 seconds to throw, at least try for the. Do you think he's going to be more conservative, or do you think he's going to air it out? If we see a similar, like, you can't just run your whole offense, like nothing else is working. Do you think we're going to see him airing it out a lot, or do you think we're going to see him try to do the old Drew Brees? You can't go broke taking a profit. You think we're going to see more 5-yard, 6-yard, high percentage throws?
Yeah. Go back like 3 articles. Get his throw charts. Like, it's something I wrote this week. Let's get that up there on the screen. So the thing that was the most interesting to me, I think, during camp, is that it wasn't like it wasn't like I'm going to show you how big my arm is.
Yeah, I agree.
It was at times I'm going to show you how big my arm is, and I'm going to hit these passes. But a lot of the stuff he was doing was in the shorter area, intermediate area of the field. Liked to work the middle quite a bit, would get out of the pocket and kind of hit, the 8-yard out route or whatever. Yeah. It wasn't kind of bombs away. The weirdest thing about camp to me was that Jake Haener was the most aggressive downfield thrower, I think, out of any of them. He was the guy that was defined by the aggressiveness. And it kind of felt like Derek was read, check down, go deep now, and then kind of what we've seen in the season. And Spencer kind of felt like kind of in that same
I think
vein.
Spencer took off running the most of all three.
Oh, no doubt about it.
Yeah. It's not there, I'm going to run. Yeah.
Yeah. So the running ability is great. Sometimes I felt like he was a little bit too quick to run.
Agree.
There were a few times where it was look, man, stay in the pocket. Don't go so quick. It took off before you should have a couple times probably.
I actually think we might see a lot of that in this game.
I think you might need to see a lot of that.
I agree.
And if they're playing kind of, I don't know, the way they played Atlanta was so weird. But if they're playing man and blitzing and stuff, I think there'll be some opportunities to do that. But yeah, I kind of found that to be one of the most fascinating things about him. I do think that you got to take some shots probably in this game. Yeah. I think there's going to be times where you got to look for it. You probably try to dial it up a little bit. And I think it makes sense, especially if you can't block. We got the throw chart up here right now. And yeah, I mean, look at that. That deep area of the field is not crazy. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 completions versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 incompletions. If we don't have any overlapping circles, but it wasn't extreme push it down the field. There's a lot of check down, to the left and the right. There's a lot of stuff kind of right at the sticks there around that 10-yard area, a little bit over that 10-yard area, and then you're kind of 15 yards and up in some of the other spots. But it wasn't, and I think I had the numbers at 92 for 150 for camp, 94 for 150 for camp.
What was the percentage? He had the lowest percentage of the three, right?
I believe it was 94 for 150. I'm going off the top of my head there, but those numbers are close.
I think he had the lowest completion.
About 63% overall throughout camp.
For sure. That might have been the time you did the Rattler-Haener comparison earlier in camp. I think he got really hot after that. It's funny, the one pattern that stands out on here is where his interceptions were. They're all in kind of the same spot.
Yeah, there were a couple of them that were tipped too.
Yeah, that's what it feels like when you see those two in front of him.
Yeah, but they're all kind of down the middle of the field there. But
right in a row.
It's kind of a nice little chart though. You got it painted kind of equally right to left. I've seen these things before where it's kind of a lot of stuff's on the, one side or the other.
Yeah.
Somebody kind of has a penchant for.
He should throw deep left based on this chart.
Yeah.
20 plus yards to the left. That's what he should do the whole game.
He hit three on both. He hit 3 on both sides. Yeah, the one to the left is incomplete, just out of bounds there a little bit. But yeah, I kind of like this chart overall. And I like that he wasn't. I don't know. Kind of looking at his skill set and the things he does, like you would kind of feel like he would be kind of a deep ball merchant. And
yeah, you're right.
Not.
I
He's
agree.
He's more of an artist that he tries to kind of do things within the structure and everything. So I think if he plays like this against that line, look, I think you do have to protect against some things. Obviously, like one thing I was surprised last week is there wasn't more like bubble screens and stuff to kind of offset what they were doing. I think
I
you
didn't
have
like
to
that plan last week.
I think you have to
really
do a lot of that this week. Try to get to it, kind of offset that blitz, kind of use their aggressiveness against them a little bit. I guess just kind of nothing was working last week.
The screens were never
They had
even developed last week.
They had a plan for Chris Jones that just kind of failed. So, yeah. But look, if you aren't signed up to our site, this is stuff we do all through camp.
And by the way, one good thing for Spencer Rattler, he spent the entire camp playing behind all the offensive linemen who are now starters.
Well, sure. Yeah. So, all right, let's roll on to our next topic. How good? Oh, we got the tattoo. Let's show the tattoo. We were talking about that earlier. This thing is sick.
We saw the one on his leg on the throw chart there.
Yeah, he's kind of got the S and the R. Like it's crazy. It's just kind of built in. When it's like
the
straight
rattlesnake
down.
logo. So I mean, if he pans out, the marketing opportunities are incredible.
Yeah. Put that thing on a sneaker on the tongue, like it would be crazy looking. Yeah. Yeah, but going on to our next topic. How good does Spencer Rattler have to be to keep the starting job permanently? This is kind of something that came up on the members only.
New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood gets the fun topic today. They get to sponsor the.
They don't actually, but the pod's on the members only Thursday. You and Kevin talked about it. I talked about it a little bit. There's a handful of guys where it's like they're not threatened no matter what. Brady, Wilson, Dak, Mahomes, like. There's just certain guys that in the past have had people come in behind them. They aren't going to lose their jobs. There's guys that have taken jobs. Mahomes takes Alex Smith's job. Matt Castle plays great behind Tom Brady, but he's not good enough to overtake Tom Brady. You don't have Tom Brady at quarterback. So there is a scenario where if somebody is amazing, like you could be threatened for the job. I think this conversation is incredibly premature, and I don't like having it, but it's a conversation that's being had so widely by the fan base that we're going to entertain it. But like in my mind, talking about it before you see the dude throw a pass is absolutely crazy.
But that's what we do here. We hopefully are I would like to think me and you are the two best people to have. I mean, we're level-headed. We're analytical. We appreciate it. You have strong takes on it. I mean, you have the very strong take that if you don't have Brady, Manning, and Breeze, you should be looking. And there is obviously a line. We laughed. I mean, Dennis Allen got asked in his first press conference, "Will Derek Carr get his job back?" I think a few people laughed in the room because it seemed like an absurd question. But if it is Tom Brady and Drew Bledsoe never gets his job back, and no one questions it for a second. If it is Mahomes and Alex Smith, Mahomes takes over, and no one questions it for a second. So the question is, what is the line? Obviously, there is a large section of this fan base, and I think Kevin represented them on the members only pod. That is like, you give me a pulse, and I'm ready to move on to hope and a young cheap quarterback, and they're just ready. Like I don't want to have the 22nd best quarterback in the league. If I'm going to do that, at least give me the guy making the rookie salary who could be better in year 2 and year 3. I get it. Like I keep making the comparison. I understood when Tennessee went from Tannehill to Will Levis. I don't think this is that situation because I think Carr is better than Tannehill, but I totally get it. So my question, the question is, like, if he's just pretty good, if he's Teddy Bridgewater in 2020, who went 5-0. No, what was that? 2019. Teddy Bridgewater went 5-0 while Breeze was gone. Breeze had the job waiting for him going back. If he's Teddy Bridgewater in 2019, does he keep the job? Or does he have to be Mahomes to keep the job?
I feel like Teddy Bridgewater is a tough comp because there's a perception of what Teddy
Yeah,
was versus my perception of what Teddy was. So,
he was kind of a really good caretaker for an excellent team.
He made a lot of bad passes.
Yeah,
If you put Spencer Rattler on the 2019,
he'd go 5-0 too.
Yeah, and he would probably look way better. Like that was such a good team. That's the structure you want somebody to walk into to make their first start as an NFL quarterback. Yeah, that is not the current structure. First, let's define this a little bit. Like, I think Derek Carr sets a pretty high bar.
I agree.
There's maybe 23, 24, 25 people walking earth right now that are qualified to be starting NFL quarterbacks. He is one of those people. There is a large population of people that play quarterback. There's 25 that can play in the NFL right now. So being one of those 25, that's a high bar. Even if you think, I don't know where you're drawing the line. Bo Nix, is Bo Nix at the bottom of that line maybe? Like, even if you think Bo Nix sucks, he's better than damn near everybody that plays the position. Andy Dalton's probably the best cutoff. Like, he's on that cusp of
above Dalton. You want to be above Dalton.
You want to be above Dalton, and Andy Dalton's like capable, but there's a lot of people that aren't as good as Andy Dalton. So like that's where the bar's at. It's tough to overcome. I feel like Derek Carr sets a pretty high bar. I don't feel like he's an extremely vulnerable person. I feel like he's somebody that you can win games with. I don't think he's a guy you win games because of.
Yep.
And until you have a guy that you win games because of, I think you always have to be looking. You have to be, you don't only have eyes for somebody that isn't doing everything the absolute best way for your team. And you don't, a guy that can overcome this circumstance. And there aren't many of them.
No.
Like, if you have one that you feel like you could put behind this offensive line and he's going to find the way to win, Drew Brees being one of those guys once upon a time, then you don't have to look around. But you don't have that right now. So, yeah, everybody is vulnerable. That's not Andy Dalton. That's not Joe Burrow. That isn't Lamar Jackson. That isn't Josh Allen. I'd throw, I guess, Dax in there a little bit, maybe at the bottom edge of that. There aren't a lot of them, though.
Not a lot.
There's not a lot of them. Brock Purdy, he's replaceable. Baker, replaceable.
Well, Brock Purdy made Trey Lance replaceable and Jimmy Garoppolo replaceable.
CJ Stroud's on that list of guys that's not replaceable right now. I think he still has things to prove, but like, he's not replaceable right now. Kirk Cousins replaceable. I wouldn't give a damn if I paid Jordan Love. Someone comes in and they light it up, I'm trading Jordan Love. Like, there aren't a lot of people that are in that. So it isn't a Carr disrespect thing. It's just the reality of the situation.
No, I agree with all that. And I think we are on the same exact place on that. The question is how, like, it's funny. I just thought of the Purdy comp. Purdy replaced Garoppolo. I know there were injuries involved, but like, when Purdy was good enough, it was like, all right, we're going with the young, cheap guy we just drafted then. Buy Garoppolo, buy Trey Lance. We got a good enough. Like, and he's young and he's cheap. And Purdy's been really good. But like, is that what he has to, like, what if Rattler comes in and looks like Purdy looked like as a rookie?
Yeah, I roll with him.
And you stick with it?
I can ride with it until the wheels fall off later. Yeah. If it's like a Josh Dobbs situation where you get 5 weeks down the road or whatever it was last year.
And you're
there was kind of enough there where people were starting to be like, wow, could he? And then it turned out he wasn't. But like, he's still under contract. And what's he going to tell you? I'm not going back in. Like, he kind of has to at that point. So, I mean, I would risk it at that. If he's good enough and he looks like you can win games with him kind of at the same level and you aren't compromising too much, and then you have the upside, I go with the young guy. That's the business. That's just kind of the way it is. If the door opens and someone can walk through it and take everything from you, like, it sucks, but like, that is just the reality.
Two different answers, because that's your answer. I don't know that I agree the Saints would do that. But
I think that would.
Who does a tie go to?
The young guy.
I think a tie gives Carr his job back.
I think I have a slightly different take.
But hold on. I'll give my answer and then you give your take. I think if we deem it a tie, if Rattler is playing as good and bad and up and down as Carr this season, I think the job is waiting for Carr. I think Rattler has to be better, like clearly better than, to take it away. I think tie goes to Carr. I think that's what the Saints do. That's my prediction, my guess.
My take on it, I think if he gives you 85% of Carr, I think you stick with him.
All right. And you think they would stick with him?
There's multiple reasons.
Yeah.
One, preservationist theory, man. Like, if you are the coach of a young quarterback and you're on the rise a little bit, you can lose a couple more games than maybe you could if there's an expectation to be good right now and you're playing for the future. Two is I think it's if he's close.
Yeah.
I think it's the most logical thing to go with him because he's the future of your franchise, and you can build around a younger guy. You can trade Derek, get a pick back for him. I don't know what you probably get a third for him or something. I don't know what he's worth, but somebody would probably give you something for him. Even if not, just walk away from the salary and kind of save some money. When it clears up a little bit. But I think if you feel like you have the future and he's close, like he's gonna get better. So why stunt that growth? So I would go with him for that reason. Three, I know everybody. Nobody sounds excited. Clint sounds excited. DA doesn't sound like. I'm telling you that there was legitimate energy around this. Like people were excited about it. There was a buzz in the building. Everybody wants to find out. They drafted him. If you drafted this guy and you stole a quarterback in the 5th round, like that is the most energizing thing for your organization. Any organization, nobody gets a starting quarterback in the 5th round. Like if you found one in that range, I think you go all in behind them. You start building around them. All of a sudden, like you kind of have like this young core now that you're going with. You feel better about next season. Like it just kind of gives you a whole new lease on life. And I think if you can find a lease on life that possibly leads to somewhere better than kind of the purgatory that you're in right now, I think you go all in behind that and nothing else matters at that point. So if it's close, I get what you're saying, but I feel like if it's close, like I feel like if he gets close, like that overcomes. Like I think Derek needs to look decidedly better at the end of this to not go with him because I think just the whole thing, like I don't know. My instincts on this is like everything should be if the young guy is close, you go with the young guy.
Yeah, of course. My prediction is a little different, but we have to see what it looks like. And the other thing is 85% doesn't mean 85% of the stats. It also needs to mean internally they know he's got command of the offense in the huddle and like
all that. Yeah.
They need to know. But 85% of Carr is not unattainable. So that is a fascinating I hope for the Saints' sake and for us covering the team that it gets to that decision. I mean, I hope that means they're winning 2 out of their next 3 games or at least 1 out of the next 2 while Carr is definitely out so that this conversation continues and that it's not just they're now 2-6 and going back to Carr. I hope that's not where this team is at. But it's fascinating. I mean, it's fascinating. And I also think there's a different conversation if we're talking about October 28th and if we're talking about February. And heading into next season, I lean even more toward your answer that 85% is enough if you're talking about the off season than 3 weeks from now. But if he's good enough, this conversation will pick up steam and then pick up more steam, and then Carl try to rush back while maybe not being a fully 100% healthy. It's gonna be fascinating.
The thing, like here's the thing about. Just moving on from next year, it's $960,000 versus $51 million on your cap.
Obviously, what do you mean $960,000?
Rattler's cap. Yeah, you got he's literally $50 million cheaper against cap. Like obviously, if Derek's your quarterback, you're restructuring that base salary and everything. And the thing that kind of sucks about that is if you were to cut him, you only save $1 million against the cap. He has a $51 million.
You could actually save
number.
A little bit more though because you can make it a post. June 2nd and change that a little bit, but they guaranteed him a $10 million roster bonus, but
Derek ain't gonna. Well, I mean, I guess he has no control.
Yeah,
over
you can call it whatever you want, but he also.
But he wouldn't do the. I doubt he would do the thing where he's like.
Oh, he won't do the.
I'm gonna do you a favor. Like no, it would be in his interest to get free
what I was
going to
say is he's already guaranteed a $10 million roster bonus, but it's offset, which means if he signs with another team. And they pay him at least $10 million, and the Saints don't have to pay that. So, there is savings to be had if they cut him, but there would be a gigantic dead money cap hit that they'd have to work their way around. So,
but it is hard.
Very premature.
It's a high bar. It really is a high bar. I know everyone thinks this guy
I agree
like the people on there's people that are kind of on that side of it, and they think he's like trash or whatever. Like he's really not. Like he's a guy that you can get into the playoffs with. They were a game away from getting into the playoffs last year. If you didn't have all these injuries this year, I think it's easily a playoff team. Like the problem is that they didn't build it right. Like they got the right system. They got the right idea. It's just too thin. Like everything was too thin. And then you amazingly tore through all that depth. Like it's almost unprecedented to have this many injuries concentrated to one position. It's
the one
a
they
real
could
shame.
least afford him in.
Yeah, it's a real shame.
another check mark in Spencer Rattler's favor is this team is heading toward a cliff where they're going to have to rebuild whether they want to or not. 6 of their 10 best players are in their 30s right now. But to make it clear that I've been pretty pro Carr, I think, in all these conversations, my Carr take that I've consolidated is I've always put him in the same bubble as Jared Goff, Kirk Cousins, now Baker Mayfield, who I honestly didn't have there before until we've seen him be playing well 2 years in a row. And I saw enough when things were going well with the Kubiak offense to think maybe Carr finally got his Jared Goff, Ben Johnson situation. And I think Carr with Kubiak, even though we only really saw it for 2 weeks, technically 4 weeks, I still think, even though he's 33 and we supposedly have all this information on Carr and know what he is, I think it's not impossible to believe that he's finally with the right offensive coordinator, that he was prepared to have the best season of his career. It looked like to me. I don't think the Jared Goff over the last 2 years with Ben Johnson model is ridiculous at all. I actually kind of believe it with Carr.
Yeah, I hope at the end of this we see enough from Spencer that there's like a belief of him, and then like you get to see it. Like, because I think the system is really set up to kind of like I feel like theoretically everything goes right. He seems like somebody that could really make this thing kind of sing. Going to our next segment, and it is presented by Shea Bear Insurance, the Earhart Agency. What concerns us most about the Saints injury report this week? And if you have any type of insurance needs, Shea Bear can take care of you if you need to insure body parts, houses, whatever.
Can you insure an offensive line? Can they just bring Andrus Pete? They can be like, you're collecting on your policy. Here's 2 Andrus Petes.
Drop a Pete off.
Oh, you lost another guard? Here's Senio Kelemete. Actually, James Hurst was at the game. He now works in the media. Do you think Chabert brought him to the game? Oh,
I asked James if he wanted to suit up. He said it was a little bit too late. I would have felt better about that offensive line if he was out there, though. I'll give him that. But yeah, what concerns us most about the injury report this week? I mean, obviously the interior offensive line. Let's start with the little good news on there. Like, they did take Alvin and Rashid off of it.
They're
as
both
far
playing.
As their status.
Huge.
They're both playing. Doesn't mean they're going to be 100%, but they aren't. They have no game status kind of going into it. So that's definitely a good thing for them.
Taysom Hill's out. Save him. He's a Martin's question of the day. So eliminate Taysom Hill from the conversation right now.
So the guys we have out this week, Saints listed Taysom Hill, Cesar Ruiz, Derek Carr, Will Harris, Pete Werner. For me, I guess you got Willie Gay coming back on this one. And he doesn't have a listing either, so that's a good thing. It's wrapped up though. He had that hand surgery. He's going to play with the thing. So Pete doesn't worry me too much if you have Willie Gay back and he's capable. I'm okay with Will Harris being out, but you kind of get into your safety depth a little bit kind of quickly there. And Jordan Howden will probably get that start next to Tyrann Mathieu would be my guess. Obviously the thing that concerns me the most about the injury report is, Derek Carr. The starting quarterback going out. I know everyone's excited until Spencer shows us that it's not a major concern.
Let me rephrase the question. What concerns you most about the final injury report now that you know the status of all the players that you didn't previously know before 2 days ago?
Sure. I mean, the one that still worries me, like it's the interior line. It's absolutely
and Lucas Patrick specifically being questionable. I wanted to see him out there. I wanted to see Lucas Patrick out there at practice today. I had already come to terms with the idea that Taysom wasn't going to be back. Cesar Ruiz wasn't going to be back. We knew Will Harris was going to be out. But Patrick felt like Patrick, Kamara, and Shaheed felt like up in the air guys at the beginning of the week. We quickly realized Kamara and Shaheed were going to be okay, which was a big relief. And today I thought we might see Lucas Patrick out there, and we didn't. Dennis Allen said he will go up until game day and still has a chance to play. But even that's not good news. It means it won't be a 100% Lucas Patrick. And this is a game where they really needed to at least – I mean, they just benched – they started by not starting Connor McGovern last week, and they ended by benching Nick Saldiveri. And if Patrick doesn't play, they have to play both of them and Landon Young. So it's you don't want to play all those guys.
Terrifying. Yeah. Absolutely terrifying. Total Maintenance is one of the largest locally owned home and commercial service providers in South Louisiana. They were founded in 1980 and serve the greater New Orleans and Baton Rouge markets. And Total Maintenance wants to show some love to our NOF listeners. They have a membership program that gets you 2 tune-up visits for AC and heating as well as club membership discounts of 15% on all repairs, half off of all diagnostic charges, and 3-year warranties on most repairs for membership clients. This is usually priced at the low price of $24.95 a month per system, but if you tell Total Maintenance that you found them through NOF, they'll lower the price to $20.95 per month per system for as long as you keep the membership active. It will never increase. Total Maintenance has a tune-up special running this summer for $79, down from the normal price of $179. This is a one-time offer for one system only. They also offer a free diagnostic on second opinions on units deemed to be unrepairable, and they offer free estimates for replacements as well as commercial maintenance programs. Services include AC and heating service and replacement, electrical service, plumbing service, as well as generator service and installation. They are Total Maintenance. Find them at tm-ac.com or give them a call at 504-841-3300, or if you're in the Baton Rouge area, 225-480-1000. Martin Wine and Spirits is home to a selection of hand-picked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and much, much more. They are family owned and operated since 1946 and specialize in wine, spirits, gourmet food, gift baskets, catering, and tasting events. They have many locations, so they're never too far away. You can check them out in Metairie, New Orleans, Mandeville, and Baton Rouge, or if it's more convenient, you can always shop online. Whether you're a wine novice or a seasoned collector, you'll enjoy the Martin Wine and Spirit experience.
Score big with Saints Score. Win up to $100,000. Enter the second chance drawings for cool Saints prize packages. Play Saints Score scratch-offs from the lottery.
All right, guys, it's the best time of year. Football's back. We're talking NFL Sundays, college football Saturdays, and the glorious grind of fantasy football lineups. This is where your inner GM comes alive. Setting the perfect fantasy roster, screaming at your TV, and making last-minute waiver moves that either make you a hero or the guy everyone ridicules in the group chat. But listen, while you're over here making sure your fantasy team is dialed in, don't let your personal grooming become the guy that gets left on the bench. Let's be honest, nobody wants to fumble their grooming routine. That's where Manscaped's Performance Package 5.0 Ultra comes in, acting as your all-in-one grooming playbook. From keeping things sharp down below with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra to taking care of those rogue nose and ear hairs with the Weed Whacker 2.0. This is the lineup that'll keep you looking and feeling like a champ on and off the field. Join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get ready for kickoff by heading over to manscaped.com. Use the code New Orleans, that's one word, for 20% off and free shipping. Trust me, you'll be drafting the real MVP of grooming this season.
There's nothing quite like the feeling of stepping into your dream home. At Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union, we can help make that dream a reality with a team dedicated to you. When you partner with Jefferson Financial, you do so for the life of the loan. Having a single point of contact when questions arise is invaluable. Our experts are here to guide you every step of the way. There's no better time to invest in your future. Apply online at jeffersonfinancial.org. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing lender.
Whether you are a local New Orleanian or a fan in town for the game, get your pre- and post-game fired up at Aaron Rose. Local chaos and local love for the black and gold. Wake up and live with daily drink specials, mimosas, screwdrivers, Bloody Marys, and hot or frozen Irish coffees, all just $3 or $4 between 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Aaron Rose, half a block from Bourbon Street in the French Quarter, 811 Conti Street.
Welcome to the Queen Casino, where entertainment meets unparalleled customer service. From our days on the water to our new land experience overlooking the Mississippi River, our dedicated staff is here to ensure your visit is nothing short of exceptional. Whether you are coming or going, our well-lit parking lot and security team provide guests with red carpet treatment. Our security team keeps watch so you can focus on fun and fortune. From table to table, our attentive staff is here to serve up the ultimate experience. Join us at the Queen Casino. Your royal adventure awaits.
We're here at the mobile Ochsner Andrews Sports Medicine Institute podcast studio on Veterans Memorial Boulevard, right next door to my guy, Matt Bowers. If you are not at a Bowers car dealership and you're buying a car, you're definitely at the wrong place. Get back in that old car, drive to the new place, leave in a new car. Our next segment is presented by the Louisiana Lottery. It felt like a fact for years. Mike Evans is playing against Marshon Lattimore. you do not put him into your fantasy lineup. Mike, is that still true? And do you think Latimore will erase him on Sunday? And will they both play through the entire game?
All right, there's two things going on here. One is there's years of evidence that Marshon Lattimore is a legit Mike Evans eraser. Like, I saw it 6 times in a row, and I still didn't believe it. I'm like, he can't really do this. And then there would always be, like, the one exception. Like, maybe every 4th time they'd play, Evans would have a good game. So 2 out of 8 or whatever it is. I'm going to let you say the numbers because you dug them up. You keep excellent stats on this. So that alone, the way Latimore is playing right now, I think he's back to playing elite football. I'd be scared to play Mike Evans in the matchup. The second thing, though, is I would think, all right, the Buccaneers, they'll put Evans in the slot. They'll get creative. They'll do rub routes. They'll do crossing routes. They'll find ways to get Mike Evans the ball. But I just don't think they need to bother. The way Adebo's been struggling, the way they've been burning Adebo with the deep ball this year, getting the PI penalties, the way Chris Godwin has turned back the clock and is playing as good as he ever has, and he operates well out of the slot. I don't think the Bucs have to force it to Mike Evans. If they're going to say, all right, Latimore's going to cover Evans on every play, maybe he'll get 2 catches for 20 yards, we can beat you in other ways. So I don't necessarily think they're going to force it. I'd be looking to bench Mike Evans on my fantasy team.
There have been 11 games, these two on the field together. How many times do you think Mike Evans has topped 50 yards?
I remember the one monster game. Wait, when they're both on the field together, because Evans has had a couple good games against the Saints, but Latimore's missed.
Latimore and Evans head-to-head matchups. There's been 11 of them. How many times do you think he's topped
2 or 3?
He's topped 50 2 times. 98 yards, 2021, week 8. He had on Latimore, and then obviously the 18 game, 115 yards. That was
a long time. 6 years ago.
That was that big play right at the beginning. He had him on the sideline. Marshon goes to the turf. He scores a touchdown. He scored 3 total touchdowns, with Marshon in coverage in those 11 games. 374 snaps matched up on each other. That is, it's not a big number. 49 total targets, 25 catches, 431 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, he's had the better of him in almost every single game. I mean, last year, 46 yards. The game before that, he had 12 yards on him. The game before that, 14, 98, 25, 8, 11, 48, 115, 36, 18.
8.
Yeah, like he is
it's unbelievable.
And in that game where there was an 8, they were in coverage on each other 43 times. He was on coverage on him 43 times, and he had 8 yards in that game. 1 reception for 8 yards. I think he's playing great football right now. I think I mentioned on the last show, Marshon's been targeted 9 total times this season. Obviously, he missed a game. I think part of that's how other guys are playing too, but I think it's also like you're locked in if you're doing that. Mahomes didn't even throw at him in this last game. I do think that they're going to do some heat checking here to try to see, like, okay, is he getting open? Can I get the ball to him? But if he isn't, like, I think you go away and you try to win like everybody else is winning by throwing to the other side of the field.
And also, there is at least a 10% chance that Mike Evans is going to get ejected from the game at some point when they fight. So, Mike
Evans said this week that he's too mature for that. He's grown now. He's grown now.
I will go to my deathbed believing that Tom Brady came up with the idea to get both Mike Evans and Marshon Lattimore ejected. Crazy. Because he'll be like, we can live without Mike Evans. They can't live without Lattimore. Yeah. It was diabolical.
Yeah, and it opened up right after that. Yeah, it changed the whole entire game. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Our next segment is presented by Aaron Rose. What other matchups matter most in Bucs at Saints? I'll just start with the big one. It's Spencer Rattler versus their blitz. Like, he's going to have to be able to identify it and know where it's coming from, and I don't think he can sit back there and take anything for granted with his offensive line. He can't think, oh, hey, I'm gonna rely on Nick Saldiveri and Landon Young and Connor McGovern to kind of have all this covered, and they're gonna see it, and they're gonna no, you're gonna have to identify it. You're gonna have to notice the fail safes. You're gonna have to know when to get out of the pocket, when to extend plays. You're gonna have to have that feel for it. And Clint Kubiak said this week that innate ability is the best thing about Rattler's game. I think he's really gonna have to show it, and I think he's gonna have to have, part 2 of that, the matchup, to have the mental fortitude to bounce back from hardships. We've seen him do it all throughout his college career. If he's really, if that's part of him, it shouldn't be a big problem. But I think he's going to have to showcase all those things.
Yeah, that's scary, and Todd Bowles gets some credit, but the Buccaneers defense in general doesn't scare me. I mean, obviously, recency bias. We just saw Kirk Cousins light them up for 500 yards. They have the number 30 defense in the league based on yards per game. They're 15th against the run, exactly in the middle of the NFL, and that's what this is going to come down to. Can they stop? Well, first of all, they gave up 550 last week. Anton Winfield's been hurt. He's probably the best player on their team. He's questionable, but there's a lot of optimism that he's going to be back playing safety for them. He's been a big handful for the Saints. He's been a handful for the entire NFL. That'll make their defense a lot better. But, I mean, it really comes down to, I think the Saints have a chance to win this game if they can run the ball. We know they don't have Devin White anymore unless they pick him up after he just got cut by the Eagles this week. They still have Levante David. They probably will have Antoine Winfield. They have Vita Vea in the middle. I think the Saints have a decent chance to run the ball. But that's number one for me.
Their corner too, Zion McCollum, like he's been playing pretty good so far. So he might be somebody that you kind of have to deal with a little bit. He might be able to handle one of those guys out there playing really, really good right now. PFF actually has him ranked as their second best corner in the NFL so far to this point. So he's somebody to keep an eye on overall. Obviously you start looking at some of the other guys on the defense. I mean, Vita Vea in the middle is somebody that you got to definitely be worried about a little bit, especially with the state of your interior offensive line, something you definitely got to keep an eye on. But I generally agree with you. Like, there aren't a lot of monsters on this team that I'm like scared of the individual matchup. Wirf's obviously a great tackle, but the Saints pass rush is going to probably beat itself.
They're getting their right tackle back. He's missed like 4 games with an injury too, so their offensive line will be a tiny bit fortified.
Yeah, like at that, like whatever. Like
yeah.
like are these guys? Oh no, that's going to change the. Like I don't really think so. Baker's playing great though. Like you got to give it up to Baker. Obviously, both the receivers, Edmonds and Godwin, but that's it's that trio that you're kind of worried about in this game. I think.
Yeah, Baker. God, I was wrong about Baker, I got to admit. And he lost Dave Canales this year, and it didn't seem to matter. A matchup I'm fascinated with.
Yeah, he's proven everybody wrong. He really is. Yeah. He really is. Like, shout out to him. But it's kind of funny that there's
they're not calling for Kyle Trask in Tampa Bay right now.
It's like kind of crazy. There's like this like little quarterback rehab thing going on where it's like these highly drafted guys actually end up in the right system, and now they're good. Yeah,
Geno Smith.
I thought the same thing was going to happen for Derek, and then the O-line goes and he gets hurt. Like, it's too bad.
The matchup another matchup I'm fascinated is Chris Godwin has traditionally, I think, even been more than 50% in the slot. He's exactly 51% in the slot this year, and his targets are 63% in the slot, and he's killing. He's been one of the best receivers in the NFL. Alante Taylor's probably been the Saints' best defensive player. He was our camp MVP. He hasn't slowed down one bit, but I don't think he's had a coverage assignment to this level yet. Alante Taylor versus Godwin. Yeah. Can he do it? This is a matchup C.J. Gardner-Johnson made his whole reputation on as being a slot cornerback because he did good in his first couple matchups against Godwin. That's a big one for me.
All right, moving on to our Martin's questions of the day. We do 2 of them on Friday. Martin's so much more than just wine. Make sure you go check them out. They got a good deli and everything too. First question is from Joe. If Kendre plays this weekend, how many touches would you like to see him get? I'm going to tell you what. I don't think Kendre plays this weekend. I don't know if Kendre plays next weekend. I think at this point, my feeling of the situation is that the running back depth chart is Alvin Kamara, Jamal Williams, Mims, and then Kendre Miller. I think when he sees the field, he needs to make the most of it and to show everybody what he can do. But I think currently this coaching staff on the offensive side of the ball, we obviously know the head coach is frustrated with him, but I think the offensive side of the ball, like I think they like Mims better. I think we saw that when they were all on the field the few times they were all healthy. I think Jordan Mims is ahead of Kendre Miller on the depth chart right now.
We haven't seen much from Jordan Mims, though, so I don't think that's impenetrable. And I don't think Jamal Williams is impenetrable either. I will say this, though. Dennis Allen spoke the most kindliest of Miller that he ever has today. He said he's had a good week of he used the word progress. But it also was a reminder that Kendre Miller's now had 2 weeks of training camp. Like, he missed all of training camp, came back last week. So he has 6 practices, and one of them was a walkthrough. So I think he's working on a much slower timeline because he doesn't have a lot of credit in the bank with Dennis Allen or this offensive coaching staff. He doesn't get thrown right back in. He needs to wait for his opportunity, like you said.
Our next one is from Chris. He said, when will the Saints ever do well without Taysom in the lineup? What will it take? He's 34 now on his last hoorah. Saints are terrible without him. This needs to be answered. I mean, yeah, they definitely got to prove it. I think they definitely got to prove it. It's kind of feels like a do or die week a little bit too. Like on that front, like you got to figure it out or you're gonna die. Like you have to figure out a way to win with being down him. I don't feel like he's the absolute single linchpin. I've said this a million times, but there aren't enough linchpins in there to kind of lose one and be okay. They need to show they can do it.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, you've mentioned this a couple times. I can't remember how many times it's actually been on the show. Sometimes it's in overtime or whatever. But it is just this growing thing that I think is now accepted as a fact from the fan base, nationally or whatever it is. Oh, there's the Saints with Taysom Hill and the Saints without Taysom Hill. I think there's probably a little bit more Saints with Eric McCoy and Saints without Eric McCoy that's factoring into that a little bit as well. It's funny. I'm glad Taysom's finally getting the respect we've always had for him.
Yeah.
And I think it's more than just his ability to run the ball. It's his ability to be move around and you can do so many different things with him. You can get defenses doing what you want to do. So he's absolutely missed. But yeah, I don't think it's just him missing.
Yeah. Like if you put Taysom on the field and took Alvin off, I think you're in worse shape. If you take Chris Olave off and Taysom's on the field, I don't feel like you're necessarily overcoming it. It's a lack of weapons issue. Like I think if Devontae Adams is available, like you got to go get him for that reason. If your season still looks like
if
it's
your
worth
season's
investing
still
in
alive,
after
win
these next couple
a
games.
game, and then get back in the Devontae Adams conversation.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. That's going to do it for this episode. If you aren't signed up for NewOrleans.Football, your show's going to cut off now and you don't get to watch overtime.